Yeah. So great, so great, so great.
Nice. Okay, welcome back, Maxime.
Thank you
Awesome,
very much.
awesome to have you here. Hope people enjoyed the last video we did, podcast, video, whatever, wherever people are listening or watching. Today we'll talk about something else. We'll talk about a great question I got from a subscriber. He asked me, how can you earn trust of new clients since they might already have a team of people, even if you have a solid portfolio. Sort of paraphrasing his questions, but that was what he asked essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought it was an awesome question. Uh, and I'm just going to turn it over to you, Maxime. What's been your experience getting the trust of new clients? Clients, sorry.
There's a lot of domains to cover,
Mm-hmm.
I think, because it's the result of very small factors here and there. Um, I think you should always make sure you have a blast in the next project you are about to start. Uh, you go through different kinds of enthusiasm about it. It can be sometimes because you really want to hang out with the guys. Of course, you like the music. I mean, you have to like the music. But apart from that, you really want to hang out with that cool team, or there's going to be some nice challenges recording the drums because, I don't know, the drummer has got that kind of gear and you really wanted to mic these things up, or you have this new desk that you want to try and it appears that it's perfect for that kind of music or anything. But that that's the first thing. You have to show your new client that you actually can't wait to start because this is actually something you were waiting to do, or wanting to do. So, yeah, the key is to show your client that you're going to have an input in this because that's where you excel or what you want to try or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the other challenge is to make them regular. The main challenge we face in independent studios, independent, I mean, like when I'm not attached to a label, for example. I'm a self-employed studio owner.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to reinvent ourselves every 6 months. If I look at it, an album from the craft to the mixing as a producer, for example, takes 6 months to do, sometimes more. A couple of EPs are 2 to 3 months sometimes. So it means that once this is gone, you have to reinvent yourself again. And how do you make sure that, or how do you set a strong sign for that person or that band to come back to you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all about the work experience they had with you. So you need to make sure that every day is a winning day. And even if things didn't turn out as they should, you redo them or transform them in the way that satisfies the client.
But so when you um, got a new client, so to speak,
Yeah.
how how did you how did you get their trust? How did you make them want to come with you? What was the initial process of starting a conversation to actually doing the recording?
It's always been about me as an individual. It's never been about my equipment or my setup. Of course, it it it's got power, my setup and my studio, but I think people come to me for my ear, my sense of music, musicality, arrangements, and that's why I have regular customers in the studio, because they like the way I craft their music.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's about promoting yourself, and excelling all your projects, because what brings me clients is word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's people saying, you need to go to Max because he's got that quality, and I can ensure you it's going to make your project sound much better, not only better, you know.
Yeah, that's actually a point I wrote down. Like that's you essentially over delivering,
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah,
You give them a better result than they expected.
exactly.
That's super important.
I think you give me either this studio or a laptop, I would end up doing a very similar job anyway, you know, because equipment is just a way for you to work faster, to work a bit better, if I may say so. But it is about you as an individual. So you need to make sure, and that's what's great about studio work is that it's the human factor that is the priority. You need to be a cool person to hang out with. If you're a dick, people are not going to come back to you, you know,
Exactly.
especially at these stages of our career where we're still, I don't know, at the beginning of it. You know, I believe that in 10 years, I'm going to be somewhere else, probably somewhere else higher, but it won't change the fact that I need to be a lovable human being when I'm surrounded with clients. I could have the shittiest day because of anything that comes from outside my working life. I need to be, a working soldier making teas with smile and work on the song with enthusiasm and passion.
Yeah.
That's the passion, I think, is the most important thing. Every day when you enter your lab, wherever it is, you need to have that love of music coming and being the engine of your day. If you put that on the side, people can feel it and they're like, okay, this is not happening. We're not crafting something special anymore. We're, we're just working.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Uh, Something I was thinking about over the last few days, thinking about this question is, how did you and me establish trust in each other? And I made some notes and was like, well, you know, before we started working together, we became friends first ish. Sort
Yeah,
of went hand in hand, right?
yeah,
And the more I got to know you, the more I realized your capabilities, your skills,
yeah,
and that's how you earn, or that's is that a word? Is that how you say it? That's how I started trust you. And your capabilities.
yeah, yeah.
That's how you
Right.
earn my trust, so to speak. It wasn't maybe you intentionally promoting yourself, but just getting to know each other.
Exactly.
You earn the trust of the other person, for example.
Yes.
And it allows you to tell the other person, hey, this is check out my song, for example, or check out this thing I mixed or engineered, blah blah blah. You know.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, you are. I mean, now we're going to start like throwing flowers at each other,
yeah.
but you are a very important actor of my workflow, because, yeah, you and I indeed built this kind of relationship where we didn't really know each other when I was producing that EP at State of the Arc, but I knew you wanted to do that kind of work and you wanted to see the place, and you and I had this passion for gear, for similar genres of music. So you could come there and see the sesh, and then we stayed in touch, and then you got to be a runner there, and then I got to experience the studio in a wonderful way. It's still one of my best memories, actually, crafting my own music. And then we started working with each other. But that's the thing, your success as an individual when people go to me as a producer is to have a very strong team member when the client can afford it, and when we make big things. Because of course on a one-to-one sesh I rarely need an engineer, but when I have bands, the thing is that you have someone that has got your back. When I produce a song, I don't have time to check if that channel is plugged correctly, if that compressor is actually doing the job. No, that's your job. You do it amazingly, and you are just very calm to hang out with. You do not stress me out. I hope I do not stress you out, or
no.
if I do, you're very good at hiding it. And and we've had several problems in the studio. A channel on the console dies, or that mic decides to work half like that, or and you just change a few things, and sometimes you don't even tell me if something goes wrong, and you just make your own thing with your spaghetti, and then it works.
Mm.
And And that's a team member, you let me produce the song and I let you do your job, and we do not interfere with each other. And the clients can feel that. I know that the people who have been able to work with me as a producer and you as an engineer on the same mission loved the experience. I don't know anyone who complained about it, or they didn't tell me, but the team is very important. The team factor is the thing, because it really allows, it gives you more space as a human to work on your comfort zone and leave your limits to someone else who is better than you at doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And that in itself establishes trust, right?
Yes,
And
exactly. It's about knowing your limits.
yeah,
Just
and maybe leaving the ego outside as well to some degree.
exactly. These are my toys, but there is someone playing better than me with them.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
people can afford them, of course they have to. I'm going to let you do the job.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and,
so yeah.
the same, right back at you, But that's really interesting because that's something in our case that happened spontaneously. Is that we haven't sat down to discuss, you know, be this person so I can trust you. That's something that happened naturally, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure it's something you discuss. Maybe in bigger studios, yeah, when they do auditions and
Yeah,
interviews
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
I like the way we started,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
know, because it was just we were just, first of all, we are the same age, approximately, so we were both at the same point finishing our studies and wanting to start in cool studios and hang out. We had the same fight in mind. We
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to happen at the
exactly.
same time, and we helped each other, giving each other some work experience that was gratifying for us, and a learning curve.
Yeah.
So I think these are the best ways, to start teaming up with people, when you actually don't craft it on purpose, but just let it happen.
Yeah, exactly, man. But something I wrote down as well was, when you reach out to clients online, then it becomes a bit of a different game because you don't have the time or space maybe to establish what we established throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
And something that's worked for me reaching out to clients online and how I established trust with a few of these bands is, you know, to you do sell yourself a bit by positioning yourself. You can say, this is who I worked with, this is who I worked for, blah blah blah. That's also a way to establish trust with a new client, right?
Yes, of course, of course.
And but then if you do get the gig, is what you said before, is you have to over deliver. You can't just say it doesn't matter your credits, let's say Grammy or not. You still can't just rest on that. You still have to do the work necessary, right, to establish
Exactly,
the trust. And
exactly.
it always goes back to over delivering.
You should pay the same respect for a big gig or a small gig. It's the same. You have to deliver the same working quality.
Yeah, but how for you as a producer and a guitar player or musician, doesn't matter if you play guitar, play keyboard
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or bass, whatever. How is it for you? Because you play with some cool bands. How do you think they started trust in you as a player? How do you think they did that?
Uh, well, the human thing comes first. I make sure that if I work with bands, I am helping them out with the gear, showing up on time in rehearsal, learning the songs and not learning them during the rehearsal, but actually applying my parts in during the rehearsal, showing respect and interest for the music. Whether it's a gig that has more of a creative impact or sometimes financial impact, the work is the same. I need to work with the same passion. So yeah, whether it's with a small original band or a big corporate event, I try to yeah, really try to have the same mindset. I need to be good. I need to know my parts, and I need to sound authentic. So yeah, people are going to call you because you are a nice human being to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing I work on. And
Right.
that's the thing I observe on famous touring musicians or like, yeah, the big names of session players and stuff. They're all cool people to hang out with, you know. You need to make sure that when you're in that tour bus or on stage or everything, if you're stressed or having a shitty day, put it on the side, man. You are working, you're at work now.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you are an accessible person
Mm-hmm.
so that it makes it easy for everybody. And you're gonna get a call back,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because the human factor is the priority. The playing follows, you know.
Yeah.
Playing, uh, I mean, at some point we all do the job. You know, every good professional musician does the job well, very well, extremely well. We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is the human factor.
Right. Yeah, that's super interesting. Because it all goes back to who you are as a person. Like we said
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
exactly.
beginning.
Yeah, if you start showing up late, playing out of tune,
Mm-hmm.
not having the right sound, or listening to yourself too much, and that's it. You know, you're gonna get the gig once, or maybe not at all, but and that's it.
Exactly. And the same goes for engineers out there. Like, don't show up to a gig not knowing or not being prepared of how you want to mic the drums, for example, or how the
Exactly.
console works. You know, you don't want to show up and be like, oh,
Hands in the pockets,
yeah,
like a
exactly.
tourist. No, no, no. That's not how
um,
it works.
yeah, there's so many small details that you might not think about, but actually is really important when you establish trust with new clients.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Come prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Show interest,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's a gig where you're gonna have a that you're doing for just for the creativity aspect because it's not paid a lot, or something that is sounding okay but really well paid, it doesn't matter. You have to be good and show the same enthusiasm. You know,
Exactly.
I'm a bit annoyed with this absolute truth in the music industry about how to do things. That's the way to do it. Or
Right. Right.
I don't like that. But if there's one for sure that is absolute, it's to show the same respect for every gig,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the gig is.
Yeah.
You know, you have to say to deliver the same working quality, and it
Yeah.
has to be good.
Exactly. That the drummer Gavin Harrison told me the same thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if you play in a small pub or arena. You know, you never know who you're playing with.
exactly. Play it like you
Mm.
mean it. Yeah,
And the same goes for engineers. You know, engineer like it is a superstar or not a superstar, but yeah, engineer with respect, I guess.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Clients are going to be sensitive to that, and they're going to call you back because of that, because you showed that respect, that passion. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, it all starts there. I'm probably paraphrasing again, but yeah, it all starts there. Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. And
it's
I
not.
hope that to some degree can answer that person's question.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. uh, Another question I wrote down is: do you think gear matters at all in this context? Like, do you think you can earn trust with gear?
If it is part of your uh, footprint, you know, like really, if it's the continuation of your creativity, yes, it's hard to imagine Chris Lord-Alge without an SSL desk.
Hmm.
It's hard to imagine, I don't know, Gary Moore without a Les Paul,
Mm.
or Hendrix without a Strat. I mean, it's gear is, of course, it is important. You know, you're not going to do a great recording with a shitty sound card and cheap mics. You're going to do something edgy, creative, a bit lo-fi, maybe like colored.
Hmm.
Is it going to be huge and big if that's what you're looking for? No. So, of course, when you want to work with higher end sounding music or like full bands and get that full spectrum of the band, you need to have gear that captures that.
Hmm.
You know, there've always been miracles created with SM57 mics and stuff, but I think if you have a drummer coming at your studio, and the band really wants the details of the the drum kit, the 3D perception of it, and you don't have a couple of condenser mics and a few cool dynamic mics, you're not going to do the job well.
No.
So it's not about having um, Josephson mics and Neumann mics and like all this expensive stuff, but just have good gear, gear that does the job well, that is sturdy, gear breaks during sessions, a drummer can just hit your mic, or the guitarist can fuck up your amp by just doing something wrong with it. But so
Yeah.
have some gear that is good quality, that lasts. Make sure your tubes are changed quite
Yeah.
often. The strings of your guitars, if you have instruments or in your studio, are clean, are bending well, not going out of tune. Make sure your compressor is not scratchy, that your desk works. It is important. I think name dropping of gear brands is working less and less, because we are in an industry where there are more bedroom-based musicians that don't really know about gear. So if you tell them, yeah, this is Neve, this is API, they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, make me sound good,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Uh, and in fact, this mic is a miracle, and it's probably one of the cheapest in the studio, but a lot of people are like, whoa, I sound good. Well, what is that mic?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
they expect it to be the same price than a 7K Neumann, but it's actually, I don't know, maybe 200 quid used, and it's doing a great job. So yeah, make sure you have gear that gives the color you have in mind. If you are a producer or an engineer, you need to imagine yourself as a cook or a painter. You have a palette in your mind, and you need to make sure that the gear you have allows you to depict that image you have in mind. That's where gear applies. Okay, that's your song. That's what you want. I'm going to give you this, 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 and this, and I think it's going to sound like what you want. And then you read the performer's face, and if they look at you smiling or really loving themselves, that's when gear matters.
Yeah. That's super interesting, man. That's very well put. I hadn't thought about it in that way. But I completely agree. Actually.
Good, good.
Uh,
It's approved. No, but like uh, as I said in the precedent interview, this is my bedroom setup. It's a very cool little studio, but I really, if I could sleep here, I would every day. But a lot of people are asking me, is that gear for you? Do you enjoy most of that gear, or is it mostly people? It's people. I collected that gear with passion, patience, but it's it satisfies the people more than me.
yeah.
Again, I could do a cool job with not a lot, but if I use some of these guitars and amps, it's because I know that the client is going to love it. And I can assure you that every client that has come to the studio has had that little experience where they were like, "Woof, this is sounding good."
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I love my voice on that. I love my guitar tone, or wow, that piano, man, that experience is just great. Like, I make sure that whatever you do is really giving you a thrill, and that is making the client come again. Uh, of course, you don't always meet success. I've had
Sure.
clients that probably didn't really like the vibe in the studio, or maybe my vibe. I can put things on me. It's okay. But thanks the Lord, I live out of regular clients, and they come back. I think because of that, because they like my energy in the studio, and they like the sound chain I'm giving them. And when they listen to themselves, they're like, "Whoa, yeah, this is good. This is me." And
Exactly.
that's your job during the day. You need to make sure that the artist or the performer is sounding like the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
And that goes again back to over delivering.
Yeah.
Like the session I did, yeah, in Manchester the other week. The client said we already had high expectations, but in the studio those expectations were,
even beyond that.
Yeah, even beyond that, actually, and
Wow.
it always goes back to that, making the client, yeah, blow their minds,
Yeah, yeah,
if you
exactly.
can.
That was a very cool studio you were at in Manchester.
Yeah, and we said about the gear and making sure it works. We actually destroyed a pretty expensive ribbon mic with a kick
Yeah.
drum. That was not the studio's fault, obviously. But yeah, I
Uh,
mean, those sort of studios, then gear also does matter because that's a studio you sort of hire because of the gear available, right?
yes, yes,
It's also like the church studios. It's famous because of Paul Epworth, obviously, but also because they have that EMI desk or Neve EMI, whatever it is.
yes,
So sometimes it does go hand in hand.
yes, of course,
You know.
of course.
And something else I wrote down as a note was establishing trust. You can also do that by knowing what the client, what their dreams are. Where they want to take the project. Because then you can meet those expectations better than you wouldn't be able to do if you just turned up. It goes back to the preparedness, I guess. The more prepared you are, the better you can deliver on the work.
Yes, yes,
And that's also something important, I think. If you're struggling with establishing trust of new clients.
yeah. The respect you show to the artist of the band, uh, preparing the project, knowing the songs, knowing the sound, is a big aspect of that preparation thing.
Hmm.
Getting prepared is knowing what you're going to record in what key is it in. If you're a producer, what are the dynamic ranges? Because you might change the drum setup from a song to another. Maybe you're going to swap a few mics and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Clients are sensitive to that.
Hmm.
You show them that you have the endurance. You're like, okay, are we switching to the next song? Okay, you already have your workflow,
Yeah, exactly.
and you know that you need to swap that, or maybe change amp or mic this in stereo, or that's the clients are very sensitive to that. Even if they don't always understand what you're doing,
Hmm.
you need to show them you know the working process of that track or that take, and you know how to make the day flow
Exactly.
uh, in a soft way.
Yeah. Sorry. And I also don't think. I mean, I don't know what you think, but it's not like we go in with the mindset of, oh, I need to over deliver. It's not like that's not the mindset. I mean, you're passionate about the music, so that in itself also becomes, it allows you to over deliver without thinking about, oh, I need to over deliver.
Yeah,
Because
I've
you,
seen people like that in studios actually
oh
over
yeah,
the. Yeah,
okay,
it's very stressful.
yeah,
Yeah, you can see when they're freaking out and they just describe everything they do.
right,
Yes,
right,
I'm
right.
just gonna add more compression on that, and maybe if I pan this to the left, and what if we like maybe we were swapping that mic for? It's like, oh, dude, relax.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's funny. I mean, because I think you do make a good impression of a client when they see you're also passionate, when you have something in your mind, a sound, whatever the sound is, and you can deliver on that sound and it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's fine.
exactly. Yeah,
Uh, I think that also rubs off positively on the client.
yeah. It goes back. I mean, I do it a lot, but it goes back to that cooking thing
Yeah, yeah,
that
exactly.
I always use.
Hmm.
When you work with an artist or a band, you're going to be cooking,
Hmm.
and they're bringing you the ingredients, and you have to cook them the best way possible.
Hmm.
If you do not know the recipe, you're going to have a bad day. You need to know how you're going to cut some things, how you're going to cook them. Of course, your day is going to be full of surprises because oh, I didn't know about that spice or that thing, but you need to know the recipe at least,
Hmm. Exactly.
so that when it's 10 a.m. or whatever, the beginning of your session, you are already chopping your veggies and
Hmm.
about to cook. So the band is like, okay, he's or she's doing the work,
Exactly.
already. Yeah.
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's fascinating. There's so many small things, but there's also a few big things you need to get right, and that's
Yes.
being prepared. Like we said, um,
There's another factor I'm thinking of now, which is the fragilities that your client or clients can go through during the day. You need to bear in mind that the people who come in your studio are about to be in one of the most vulnerable, fragile state they ever get in. You know, when you go to a studio as an artist, you often think about you. You often give a lot of yourself. You could have a cold that day, like we're having. You could. You are a vulnerable human being who has to deliver the very best during that day. The pressure that is on an artist's shoulders that day is immense. You know that whatever you do is going to be engraved, edited, mixed, and mastered. So you need to bear that in mind. You are in your comfort zone because you are in your own lab, your kitchen. But the people who are coming are not. They don't know the place that much. Even if they come back after a while, of course, they're going to get more and more comfortable, but their state could still be the same. They feel vulnerable. They feel pressurized by the next take. You know, they realize that it could take 2 takes or 30 takes to nail that verse or that chorus. And you need to make them feel good about it.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel that the performer is struggling with that guitar line, that vocal line, bass, or whatever, you cannot say, okay, guys, can we just move on? Can we just do this? You cannot.
Yeah.
You have to know, you have to read the body language of your performer. And when you see that they're starting to reach a certain limit where they're getting upset with the situation or with themselves, you're like, shall we take a break? You know, tea break? Or go out for a while. But that's a very important aspect, that you do not pressurize your client and that you make sure they are in their comfort zone. Because, yeah, that's one thing you need to bear in mind. You are in your comfort zone. They're coming to you in your space, and they have to deliver, if not more than you that day. You know, they have to be in an unknown space, delivering the very best of themselves.
Exactly.
That's a lot to do. You know?
It is actually. You know, that's really tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. In that you need to make them as comfortable as possible,
yeah,
and then you can also establish trust with price. Obviously, you know,
yes,
you
exactly.
almost, you know, if you think about an Apple product, you pay a ton more than you would for something else. It might be equally good, but I think, you know, the quality you expect for something, you pay more. You expect better quality, basically, and the
Yes,
trust goes with that as well, I guess.
yes,
And the same goes for you as an engineer, producer, whatever you are. You know, you don't want to be too cheap because then the client expects cheap work.
exactly.
But then you also, depending where you are in your career, you can't charge too much because then someone, you know, you might not get hired. So in the beginning, it's a fine balance. You know, as you go along, you find out what people are comfortable paying you, what people in your clientele can afford. And if someone all of a sudden pays you way more than your rate was, that can become your new rate.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's also a funny thing, and it's a bit hard, I guess, to
It is.
find
It
that
is
sweet
hard.
spot. You know, it takes a bit of time, and you know, what did I get paid this other time? What does this other project pay me versus what can this new person pay me? You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is a challenge to price your mission according to what you have to deliver and according to what you want. Because in the end, that's what matters. How much do you want in your pocket from that project?
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be tons of different ways to give a value to your work. You have your daily basis, of course. Most people have a daily basis. If you know that the band is going to stay 5 to 10 days at your place, you have to do a gesture. You know, you have to give a discount. But you need to make sure that you pay your own bills. You know, running a studio is very expensive, and you do not know what could happen. Someone could break a mic. Someone could I don't know, just blow 4 channels of your desk or anything. So you need to make sure that you've got enough money in your pocket that values the work you've done,
Hmm.
gets your back if anything happens, and of course you're gonna modulate that according to the artist, where they are at in their career, whether it's paid by a label who has a much bigger budget, of course, or an independent artist. It's very important that you price yourself accordingly to that without being too cheap
Hmm.
and without being also too expensive. Because if you're too expensive for the work you deliver, okay, you're going to do it once, but you're not going to do it twice.
Exactly.
So, what matters for us, independent producers, engineers, is to have regular customers. So, I need to make sure that the way I value my day is enough for me and enough for the person to come back
Hmm.
without, having to sell an arm or a kidney.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it is a tough challenge, but I think I've always been able to find my way and
Mm.
to allow the artist to pay the right amount for the right amount of work and to come back.
Exactly, man. And then something, I try to apply and tell other people, excuse me, is, the more value you can bring to a client, the also more you can charge.
Yes.
And that's not you being greedy or being sleazy or anything like that. It's just people want to pay for value. The more value you can bring, you can raise your rates. That's
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean,
yeah,
the more you bring, the more you work. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It's cool. There's a lot to be said on the topic, and there's many nuances to establishing trust, and depending where you are in your career, it will vary.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if you're new and you're struggling, if your only way to get clients is, let's say, online, you can do that by setting yourself apart by telling them who you worked for in the past.
Yes.
But it always goes back to a few things in my mind, at least. And you can tell if you agree or not. But in my mind, it goes back to you know uh, coming prepared and over deliver.
Yeah.
It almost goes back to those two parts, and obviously being likable as a person. That's always a given, I think. But
Yeah.
it goes back to those two things. I don't know.
Because they are the human factors.
Yeah.
They are the basic. Whatever you do, whether you are in a studio or doing financial work in an enterprise or
Mm.
being a plumber,
Mm.
you you need to do a good job, of course, but people are going to call you again because you're also a likable person.
Yeah.
If you not behave well or if you do not show passion and enthusiasm, people are not going to call you again.
Hmm. And also something I want to say is also take your time with it. Because if you take you and me as an example, it's not like we met and then all of a sudden we started working.
Yeah, 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 of
It takes
course.
time to build
Yeah,
trust.
yeah.
That's something that doesn't get discussed that often. It can take sometimes years to get a client. You know, as a paying client, because yeah, it takes time to build that relationship.
And it never stops evolving, I guess.
Yeah, that too.
You change, people change, their music change,
Hmm.
so you're going to do different things every time you work with your regular clients.
Exactly.
So you need to make sure you don't lose that passion or that interest. I mean, that's why some bands or artists that have worked with the same producers or engineers for a while change at some point because
Hmm.
it occurs at some point that they have less things in common
Yeah, exactly.
with that regular performer because the music has changed or they need a new studio, a new vibe or something else. And that's also important to bear in mind. You're
Hmm.
not losing a gig.
Exactly.
Things are changing.
Hmm.
And that's why I was saying, I think at the beginning of this interview, that we have to reinvent ourselves regularly. You're going to have regular clients, but they're going to leave at some point.
Hmm.
I mean, there are some huge collaborations that last a whole career, but they're really rare.
Hmm.
And you need to be ready for your clients to go on another path at some point.
Hmm.
And you cannot rely on them too much because they're going to leave you at some point.
Exactly. Um, and I feel I'm almost experiencing something like that now with a venue um, that I felt like, yeah, sometimes, yeah, it can be bad to put all your eggs in one basket, but enjoy it as the, enjoy the ride,
Yes,
but also
yes,
be prepared that it might not last forever. Like let's take Andrew Sheps with Rick Rubin. They used to do all the records together.
yeah,
Now they don't, but it's nothing. It's not like Andrew Sheps became a bad mixer.
yeah.
Uh, it just like you said, you grow apart. You might come back again. Your taste
He
might
grew a
differ.
beard longer
Yeah,
than Rick.
exactly. The
He became
big,
wiser.
exactly. But it's you can take many different routes. Many
Yeah,
different. It's like a river thing. It goes sways back in, goes
but
out.
it's exactly. But it's that enjoy the ride thing that is the most important.
Mm.
You need to enjoy the ride because at any point in your career, when you look back, you shouldn't have regrets. You should
Yeah,
always
exactly.
be happy for what you've done, and this will occur if you enjoyed every ride you took.
Hmm.
You know, uh, we we have challenges, but I take pride when I look back on my sessions. I was like, wow, we recorded that despite this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. Yeah, enjoy the ride indeed.
Exactly, man. Well, for people who are listening, let us know if you have any questions in the comments
Below.
below. Exactly. Check out Indigo Phase, Maxime's band. They're working on some pretty awesome songs.
Yeah,
That if
yeah, we've
you,
been in a long writing mode, but it's
yeah,
it's going pretty well, and we're now narrowing everything we've written and getting that sound.
hmm,
It's
I mean, yeah,
it's
the new song sounds killer.
thank you.
And you guys also played them live a few weeks ago. Some of them
Yeah, yeah,
that were pretty cool.
Paperless Vintage. Yeah,
But yeah, so check out Maxime's band, Indigo Phase, his studio, Pop Up Studio. Uh, but yeah, work with him. He's awesome. You will not regret it. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. Questions, comments, all that sort of stuff. And thanks again for coming, Maxime. It was a pleasure.
always a pleasure.